Hi, everybody. My name is Guy, and today I'm going to be giving you a demonstration of AssetTiger, our asset management tool brought to you by myassettag.com. This is going to be a different kind of video than the other videos on the site. First of all, it's going to be a little bit slower because we're going to step through how to use AssetTiger in real time, step by step. If you're new to the platform, welcome. Hello. This is a great way to learn everything about AssetTiger and figure out if it's a good fit for you and your business. If you've been with us a while, also welcome. Great to have you here. We're going to talk through some of the functionality you might not even know about and definitely answer some frequently asked questions. So in preparation for this video, I talked to Richard and Taina, who head up our team of experts in Brooklyn. If you've ever called in, you've likely spoken to one of them. And I asked them what people are calling in about, what they're using the system for, what options they might not know about, what frustrations they have with the system, and the simple solutions to solve those problems. What I've learned is that there's a crazy amount of functionality with AssetTiger, and most people are only using a little bit of it. So hopefully we'll be able to tell you about a couple of things that might help you in your business. But also know that AssetTiger has been changing over the last couple of years. When we get a suggestion from one of you, we take it to heart. We bring it to our developers, and we've integrated quite a few of them into our system. So now those options are available for everyone. You may only use 3 or 4 things that are available to you in AssetTiger, but we're here with you as your business grows, and we want to be the system you go to for all of your asset management needs. Great. Okay, one thing to tell you is I'm going to put chapters in this video. So take a look at the chapter titles, and if there's something you have already mastered or don't need to know about, you can skip ahead to the next chapter. Great. All right. So like I said, this is our asset management tool, and it's entirely cloud-based. If you have access to the internet, you have access to the tool. You have access to your list of assets at any time. Today's demonstration is going to be about the web-based app. We also have a mobile app for your phone, which people use all the time. You can scan barcodes with a camera. You can add assets. You can do audits. Tons of stuff you can do with that app. But today's demonstration is about the web-based app. All right, let's get started. The first thing we're going to talk about is the beginning. How do you register for an account? All right, click register. Now you've seen this a million times. This is the form where you put your name in, you put your email address in, and you type your password twice, just setting up your account. Okay. Read the terms and the privacy policy here. I am indeed not a robot. And click sign up. Okay, so you're going to get the verification email. This means that an email has been sent to your email address to prove that it's actually your email address. So go to your email inbox. Here it is. To register as an AssetTiger user, verify your email account by clicking the button here. Click to verify. And voila, we're at the setup. Okay, so in the next couple of pages, you're going to set up all the information about your company, and then we're going to set up all the information about how you want your assets to be categorized. All of this is changeable. You're going to hear me say it 16 times that we're going to set up the system here, but anytime you want to change it, you can change it later on. You're not saying no to any of the functionality for good here. We're just setting up how we're going to start. All right, so fill in the information about your company. And you'll notice anywhere where there is not an asterisk is optional, but all the asterisk stuff you have to put in to continue. State of North Carolina, there. Okay, just make sure this is your time zone, how you want your money done, how you want your calendar done. You can upload a logo if you want right here, or you can do that later. Click continue. Okay, now here's a major thing to know about how this all works. The first option you have is sites. So for example, if your company has 2 offices, one in Charlotte and one in Columbia, you can set those up as the 2 sites. If your company only has 1 office, you don't need to worry about this, you can go right on. But a lot of companies do. So for this example, we'll add those 2 offices. And just really quick, here in this button right here, you could import your list. Let's say you have 400 different sites. You can do that right here. For almost everything we're going to input, you can do it manually one at a time, or you can upload a spreadsheet by using the button that's over here. Okay, so let's add our first site. Okay, again, there's an asterisk here, so I have to put that. The rest I can put in later. There's our first site. And anytime you want to edit stuff or delete it, it's right here. Add my second. Click add. All right, here are our two sites. Fantastic. Click continue. Now, within the sites, you may have several different locations where assets are stored, where you might expect to find them. So again, here's the Charlotte office, here's the Columbia office. Let's start with the Charlotte office. Let's say that you can find your assets in the warehouse, or they might be in room 101 or room 102. Right. Now you'll notice that this alphabetizes them. So once you add stuff, it'll get alphabetized. If at any time you want to change them, if you want to change these locations, click edit. Let's say it's actually room 103. Room 102 has burned down, and now we're keeping stuff in room 103. Great, it's updated right there. All right, so those are the three locations within the Charlotte site. Let's go to Columbia and add some locations here. They could be in the cabinet. They could be on the showroom floor. Or they could be in the garage. So we have our three locations within the two sites. Fantastic. Continue. Okay, now here are some categories for what type of assets you might have. This is just suggestions, very commonly used categories, so we'll have them right here. Basically, when you have an asset input for the first time, when you put it into the system, you're going to need to know the asset tag ID, because everything has an ID, and then what it is. Is it a computer? Is it a cargo van? Here are different categories that you might use. Now, you don't have to use any of these. These are all just suggestions. You can edit them too if you want. So let's say building improvements is not the kind of assets we're going to have. So let's change this. We will have phones and chargers. So building improvements has disappeared. Phones and chargers is here. Again, it got alphabetized. So let's say that our assets, we could select them all if we want, but let's say our assets are going to be computer equipment, furniture and fixtures, phones and chargers, software, and vehicles. Great. Now, if you want these to be the categories, continue. Click continue right here. All right, so now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. This is the information that is going to be available for each asset tag. So like I said, the asset tag ID always has to be there. That's the primary way we know what things are. That's why there's this little red key here. This is the most important thing about the asset. And these can be numbers. These can come from barcodes. These can be letters. You'll see as we get a little further on. And the asset tag description. Again, is it a cargo van or is it a computer? Those two things we need. There are asterisks to show you that that's true. Now, all this other information you might not need. So if you want to uncheck something, now's the time to do it. Say you don't need the serial number for every asset. That's reasonable. You can uncheck that. But again, and I've said this a million times, anything you change now can be changed back later. We're just setting up options for how we're going to begin. Anything can be added at any time. All right, and if you want to add a custom field, here's where you do it. So let's say we want to know what color every asset is. We can make a custom field for color. And we can select the data type. We could have a checklist. It can list all the colors, so you can check which color actually the cargo van is. Dates, email addresses, different kinds of information can go in this custom field. But color would in fact just be text. Great. Is the data required? Let's say it is. And it goes across all the categories. Yeah. All right. Click Save to continue. Okay, so now that's added as a custom field. When you're done, click Continue. All right, now on this page, we have a lot of the extra functionality of AssetTiger that makes it such a robust system that people really love. For example, depreciation. So you know how if you get a cargo van, it's worth something on day one, and 2 years later, it's worth something else. 4 years later, it's worth something else. You can track that depreciation, which means that on any date, you can know exactly the value of all your assets, or you can use this information for when you're doing your taxes. Really common way that people use AssetTiger. So in order to use that, just click Yes, and now choose your method of depreciation. You're going to have to get a economics textbook to figure this out, although largely most people use straight line depreciation. So we'll choose straight line, Great. Now, a lot of these options are things you might not need, or maybe you do. Again, you can opt in now, you can opt in later. So let me just point out some of the more interesting and useful ones. Funding is an interesting one. Now, if you have a large amount of money set aside for a project, let's say you have $20,000 set aside to buy all new computers, you can start a fund, that's the new computer fund, and each time you add an asset, the price of that asset, the what you paid for that asset can be subtracted from that large fund. It's a great way to just separate the way that things are bought. If you want to use that, click yes for funding. You can also set up maintenance. If you're, let's go back to those vans. If they need their oil changed once a year, you can set up a maintenance calendar. You can use that right here by making sure maintenance is clicked. I would say, for the most part, just make sure all these things are clicked yes. And if you don't need them, if you use the system for a while and you realize you're never going to use the audit function, you can turn it off at any time. Although you probably will use the audit function. That's another very popular one. So if you want to quarterly look at a list of your assets and just make sure everything is there and working, then you're going to do an audit. This is a really common way. People often use the mobile app for this. So you can bring your phone or whatever app you're using or your iPad and bring it to the closet and just make sure that everything is there. Very commonly, common way that AssetTiger is used. All right, what else? What else? Another very common one. When I was talking to Richard and Tiana, they said a lot of people use the check in and out function. So let's say that you have a sales team, and every time they go out on a call, they bring a computer, they bring an iPad, and they bring a TV monitor to do their sales call. If you want to check them in and out, you can do that really easily with AssetTiger. You can do it on the mobile app, or you can do it on the web-based app. So just make sure yes is clicked if you want to use that option. Great. And like I said, I would just make sure these things are yes. You might not know that you need them. And if in a couple of months you've never used the checkout option or never used the donate assets option, you can just turn it off. Here's another one that's really interesting, linking assets. Like I said, if you do that sales call and you need a computer and an iPad and a TV monitor, you can link all those things together. So when you reserve them or when you check them out, they come as one big group. You can do that by clicking yes here. Okay. When you're done, click Finish. And that brings us to our dashboard where everything starts. When you log in, this is where you're going to go from now on. And at this point, we'll go to the next thing on our list, adding assets. Okay, so there are two ways to add an asset to AssetTiger. One is to do them manually, one at a time, and the other way is to upload a spreadsheet. Now, actually, one of the commonly asked questions at AssetTiger HQ is if you can integrate AssetTiger with the system that you're already using, and the answer is actually kind of no, but we make it simple for you to transition. Any asset management tool you're using right now, you'll be able to download your list of assets. And once you have that spreadsheet, we give you all the tools to adapt that spreadsheet to simply upload it to AssetTiger, and then we'll have your entire list on our system. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, we're going to talk about adding assets one at a time. There's two ways to do that on the site. There's a button right here, Add an Asset. And you can also find that right here under the Assets tab right here, Add an Asset. So as we mentioned, there are two things that are required, the asset tag ID, which is numbers and letters, and the description. The asset tag ID you can just type in right here, or if you're using a scanner, a barcode scanner that's attached to your computer or wireless, just put the cursor in here and scan it in and beep, it'll show right up. In this example, the asset tag ID is 00178. And again, we need to know the description. Is it a van? Is it a phone? Is it a TV? In this case, it's an iPhone. I'll just type in the information. The iPhone was purchased on the 7th of February at a cost of $900. Purchased from Best Buy, Apple, and the model is an iPhone XS. Great. Now here's that custom field that we added. We said that we wanted to know the color of each of the assets. And see, there's an asterisk because we made that required, that we need to know what the color is. This iPhone is red. All right, and now we get to the site location and category, that kind of information. Now you remember we set up two sites for the company, the Columbia office and the Charlotte office. Now in this case, this asset lives in the Charlotte office, so we'll leave that selected. And there were 3 locations within the Charlotte office. There was room 101, room 103, and the warehouse. This particular asset lives in room 101. Now, just to reiterate, site is the larger designation. Your company will have only a couple of sites, and within each site, many more locations where assets can be located. And here are the categories. Remember, we added the category of phones and chargers. That wasn't there before, but it also could be vehicles, it could be software, it could be equipment. But right, this is a phone, so it goes in phones and chargers. Now, here is a new section that we actually haven't set up yet. Your department. Which department is using the asset? It's most likely to use the asset. And since we haven't set it up, we'll click the new button right here and we'll add some departments. The asset might be used by the sales department, might be used by accounting. Perhaps it's used by maintenance. Tenants. In this case, it's going to be used by the sales department. Perfect. Great. More information. More information is better. All right, the asset photo. You don't actually need to take a real photo of your asset. Just click this button right here. We have some stock images. Let's search for a phone and choose the image that most closely matches it. This is pretty close. Great, there we are. All right, now the depreciation. Remember, we set up that you can track the depreciation of any of your assets. Super helpful. So this is clicked yes. The depreciable cost is $900. That's what it cost when we got it. The salvage value, that's what it's worth when it's at the end of its life, $25. And how long will it take for the asset to get to its salvage value? In this case, 4 years or 48 months. We're going to choose the depreciation method, straight line depreciation. Again, by far the most common way that depreciation is tracked. And on what date was it acquired? I believe that's the 7th of February. Let me go back up and make sure that's right. The 7th of February, that's right. 2/7/21. Okay, now here is the funding section. We actually haven't set up the funding yet. We just allowed the system to track funding. So remember, if there's a certain fund set aside just for one project, you can mark this as one of the things that was bought underneath that project, and all of that will be reflected in the funding. When you're done, click Submit. All right, so here's the information about your iPhone. Here's all the things we input, the asset tag ID, the cost, the model, all of that stuff. Here, it's located in the Charlotte office in room 101. It's used by the sales team. Great. Now, there's lots of more information on this page, and we're just going to touch on some of the more important things. Like we said, we set up depreciation. So we click this tab right here, and here's an actual graph of the depreciation over time. Here's how much it's going to be worth in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years. This is super helpful when you need to know exactly how much your assets are worth or when you're doing your taxes. Great. So as you can see, we've only scratched the surface of the amount of information you can store for each asset. And as we go along, we're going to show you more of the functionality, and take your time to look through the system. You're going to discover all sorts of things you didn't know that an asset management tool could even do. All right, now we're going to move on to uploading a spreadsheet of assets. All right, now let's talk about bulk uploading your assets. Put everything in a spreadsheet. A couple of clicks later, all of your assets are going to be set to use on AssetTiger. You do that by going to Tools and Import. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is click Download Template so you can get our template for the easiest way to upload all of your assets. If you click this, you'll get this template. Okay, here are all the fields you could possibly want. You probably don't have information for all of these. The only two that are required are the asset tag ID and the description. So let's type one in. Great. The rest of these are optional. So if you're starting your spreadsheet for the first time, you can just add things right here. You can copy and paste from a different spreadsheet, and then you're good to go. Then you go back to your import wizard, you choose the file, and you upload, and you can go from there. Now, let's say you already have a really robust spreadsheet of assets you've been keeping on your own, maybe something like this. So right here we have what lines up with what we call an asset tag ID. This is a description, This is the brand. This is when you bought the item. This is how much it cost. Great. These are all fields that we have in AssetTiger. So uploading this should be a snap. So just take this document and export it as an Excel spreadsheet or any common spreadsheet format. Go to AssetTiger and choose File to upload it. Quickly, before we move on, I want to point out this right here. If you click here, you can see the limits and instructions for all of the fields. If you have any errors pop up or any difficulties in uploading your spreadsheet, the answer is probably right here in this document. Or you can give us a call. As you know, we have our team in Brooklyn who are ready to help. All right, when you're ready, click Upload File. All right, this is what we call column mapping. It's making sure that the information in your spreadsheet matches up with our standard fields. So here are our fields, the asset tag ID. Is this an asset tag ID? Yes, it is. Great, so the first one's set. Description. Is this a description? No, it's not. This is actually a description. So now our field lines up with the data from your spreadsheet. Where was it purchased from? Actually, the spreadsheet doesn't have that data, so we can leave that blank, but it does have the purchase date. Line that up, the brand, and the cost when you bought it. Great. Now there's actually no more data from the spreadsheet to match up, so we'll just scroll down to the bottom and click Preview. So now we have a couple examples from your spreadsheet and all of our fields. Let's see if they line up. Asset tag ID. These are asset tag IDs. These are descriptions. These are purchase dates. These are brands. These are costs. Yeah, and the rest we don't actually have information for, which is totally okay. Now down here are 3 questions you need to answer. It mostly applies to you if you've already got a bunch of assets in AssetTiger and you're adding a bunch more right now with the spreadsheet. Doesn't apply to us though, so we'll click Import Data. And that's it. Only took a couple of seconds. And if we go to our list of assets, here they are. Asset tag ID, description, purchase date. Click on any of them to see more information. All right, now that the assets are uploaded, let's take a look at some of the most commonly used features of AssetTiger. I've actually gone ahead and signed into a different account, one that's a little more lived in, that's got some more things in the calendar, so I can show you some of the best features. All right, so we start here and let's look at the list of assets and talk about checking things in and out. Okay, so when you look at this big list of assets, you know quite a lot about each item. For example, this laptop, A034, is checked out. These 2 are available. 3.7 is checked out. 3.8 is reserved for someone later this week. So let's get some more information about A034 by clicking View over here. All right, so as we see, A034 is checked out, and it's been checked out by Barbara Bodine. Now, here's one of the great things about AssetTiger. When I talk to our experts at AssetTiger HQ, they say this function is used all of the time, and it's a major reason that people love AssetTiger. You can upload a list of all of your employees, of all of your customers, of anybody who might interact with one of the assets. So anytime something is checked out or reserved, or you make an appointment to do some maintenance, you know exactly who's in charge of that action. In this case, if you need to find laptop A034, give Barbara a call. She's the one in charge of it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in this example coming up. So let's go back to this list of assets. Again, I'm just interested in the laptop, so type laptop into the search bar. Okay, so in this example, I'm going to invent a new employee. Her name is Cass Martinez, and she's about to join the company. So I'm going to reserve a laptop for her for next week, but she also needs one today, so I'm going to check one out for her today. All right, the first thing we're going to do is add a new person. Like many things on AssetTiger, there are several ways to do this. You can go to the asset and add the person right there, but I'm going to show you how to do it over here. Go to Advanced and Persons Employees. Now right here, you can add employees one by using this green button, or you can upload a whole list of them. So as you see, here's a bunch of names of people who might be checking out a laptop, who might be maintaining the car. This list includes both people and locations. If one of the cargo vans is being checked out by the Brooklyn office, you can put the Brooklyn office as the person who did that action. Okay, so let's add Cass Martinez by clicking Add New Person/Employee. Again, you only have to fill out what has the asterisk. The rest we can fill out later. And click Add. Okay, here she is. All right, now let's go back to that list of laptops and reserve her a laptop for next week. Laptop. Okay. Laptop A035. Let's view to get more information. It's available. Now, again, there are several ways to do this, but here's the one that I like to use. You've got all these tabs right here. One of them is Reserve. If you scroll down, you'll see a calendar. Great. Now to add a reservation, click Add Reservation. And I want it for her for next week. So it's going to be from Tuesday the 2nd until Friday the 5th. Great. Again, you can see that things can be reserved by a person, by a site or a location, a customer even. And here you can add a new person anytime you want. But Cass is already in the system, so I'm going to put my cursor in here, start typing her name. And there she is. And here's another great feature that's commonly used. You can send a confirmation by email. This can save a lot of steps by sending an email to the person instead of having to inform them that the reservation is happening next week. It also keeps an email record of everything that's going on, which can be very helpful. Now let's click Save Email so that anytime we contact her by email, it's saved in the system. And I love this also. You can add reminder emails so that she'll get an email 2 days before the event and 1 day before the event that the reservation is coming up. And of course, you can change these as much as you want. When you're ready, click Reserve. All right, and here it is in the calendar. From the 2nd to the 5th, Cass has laptop A035. Great. And quickly, I wanted to show you that this is also reflected in the dashboard. If you click up here to get to the dashboard, you have all these widgets. All of these widgets are very customizable, as most things are in AssetTiger. One of them that I have on the board right now is the reservation calendar. And here it is, laptop A035 reserved for Cass from the 2nd to the 5th. Great. All right, now back to the big list to continue. Okay, now that we have the reservation squared away, let's check out that laptop for Cass. So we're going to check out laptop A036. If you'll recall, when we were setting up the account, we did all the information about sites and locations, about what types of categories the assets might fit in, and there were all these other options. So many options that we kind of just blew by them because we didn't need them all. But there is one that I'd like to point out that's really helpful for check-in and check-out, and that's using the signature pad. So like I said, when we were setting things up, you can change things at any time. So let's go back into the system and enable the signature pad. You can do that by going over here to Setup. Remember, we set up the company info, the sites, locations, categories, all this. The extra stuff is here in the table options. All right, remember we spoke about depreciation, about funding, and a couple of other things, the audits. But what I want to look at is the checkout assets function. All right, so we have it enabled. Yes, you can check assets in and out, but let's enable the signature pad. Now this way, when you check something out, you have to sign using the digital signature pad that you have received the item. And we're going to keep this checked to make the signature required each time that happens. And this is the message they're going to get each time. It's going to say, I accept receipt and delivery of the goods and further acknowledge that the goods have been inspected and are without defect. Of course, when you have to sign for something, you have a whole new level of accountability and a great record of where all your assets are at any time. Okay, so now that this is enabled, we'll go back to the big list of assets. You know, each time I type in laptops, but I actually know that it's A036. So I'll just type A036, another way to search, into the search bar right there. And here it is, laptop A036. All right, now to check out this laptop, you got to go to View over here. And check in and check out is here under More Actions. Check out. Like I said before, you can check it out to a person or a site. Again, this is going to CAS. So put your cursor in the box here, start typing, choose CAS. No due date. Let's give her a due date. So it's checking out today, the 22nd, needs to come back by the 24th. And again, you don't need to fill any of this out, but you can. And you can send an email just by clicking that box. And remember, we had her email address saved, so there it is, one less step. And click Check Out. And here it is, the signature pad. So Cass cannot take this out unless somebody signs for it. I'm now going to forge her signature because she's not a real person. And click Checkout. There you have it. Laptop A036 is checked out. And again, let's go to the dashboard to confirm that. In the dashboard, one of the widgets has all of the alerts. And right here, asset A036, here's the due date, the 24th. Yep, A036, laptop computer, due back the 24th, checked out by Cass Martinez. One more thing I want to talk about is users and permissions. When I talked to the folks at AssetTiger HQ, they said they get questions about this fairly often, and it's actually pretty simple once you understand the basics. So let's take a look. Under Advanced, you have security groups. Now, we start you with 3 groups when you open your account: an admin group, a manager group, and a viewer group. Each time you add a new employee, a new user of the system, you get to choose which group they go into. Now, the admin group has access to every feature, everything that you have right now by starting the account. Anybody who's in the admin group can do anything to the account they want. The managers group is a little more limited, and the viewer group can only see the information and can't change any of it whatsoever. Of course, like everything else on this platform, everything is adjustable. So let's take a look at this viewer group and see if we like the permissions allowed to them. So click Edit. So as you see, they can view all the assets and they can reserve assets. That's great. But they can't add assets, edit or delete or import or export. That seems reasonable. They can work at all the sites, all the departments, all the categories. Great. Here's what I wanted to check out. The viewers are allowed to check things in and out, which I think is great because that's an option that everybody should be able to use. And that's about it. If you like these options, click Submit. And there you go. Now, let's say a new employee is starting and you want to add them to the list of people who can have access to all this information. Go to Users. And here are a bunch of people who already work at the office. Add New. And the first thing it asks you is what kind of permissions they have. Are they in the admin group, the viewer group, or the manager group? Let's say this is an entry-level employee, put them in the viewer group. So they can see all the information, they can do check-in and check-out, but that's it. And fill in the rest of the information. The new person will be sent an email. They'll have to click in that email to register themselves as a user with this account. Time zone, date, format. You can upload a photo if you want and click Submit. Go back to the dashboard. This comes into play because we often get the question, why can some employees do certain things on AssetTiger and others can't? It's because when you put them into the system, you put them into different groups, into different permission groups. So not everybody has access to everything. And if you want to fix it, just go back in through that Advanced tab and you can change everybody's permissions. And there you have it. Those are all the AssetTiger basics. We have just scratched the surface of the immense amount of functionality on this platform. So take a look around the site. If you want some more specific information, you can check out some videos I've already made. They're on the site here under Help Support. Scroll down to Videos. Here are a bunch of videos. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us by email, by phone. Here's our information. Go to Contact Us, also under Help Support. Phone number, email address. Reach out if you have any questions. Thanks for sticking with me, and we hope you enjoy AssetTiger.